Hello Year 10. The second lesson in the Living a Muslim Life unit is what is Shahada. By the end of this lesson you'll be able to explain the Muslim declaration of faith and consider its importance. For the starter task, I would like you to do an online word search. When you are doing the word search, can you think about the words you are finding? Which of the words you are finding are one of the 10 obligatory acts? And what are the other words? Can you think back to previous work and consider what they are you're finding? I'd like you to now pause the video and do the online word search, please. When you did the word search, did you remember what these other 5 words were? They are the 5 roots for Islam, or Usul or Deen. The next task is you are an examiner. I'd like you to read through these exam answers for a B answer and consider how many marks you would give them. I'm again going to ask you to pause this video and mark them yourself. You can just make a note of the marks you've given them on a piece of paper. You don't need to write the questions out. So, I'm going to go through the marking and see if you've got the same marks I would get if I was marking them. The first question says, explain 2 reasons why the obligatory acts are important for Muslims. B answers are always 4 marks. You need 2 paragraphs and 2 bits of information in each paragraph. So if I was marking them for the first answer, I would give a mark 4. They are important as they create a sense of unity among Muslims. That's my first mark. My second mark would be, for example, the 10 obligatory acts mean Shia Muslims will do the same, for example, give comes. They are important because the Shahada is from God. I would not have given this a mark because this is not one of the 10 obligatory acts. It is one of the 5 pillars of Islam, but it's not one of the 10 obligatory acts. Therefore, I've marked that 2 out of 4. The next answer is, the 10 obligatory acts are important to Muslims because they show commitment to Islam. I'd give that a mark, that's a piece of information. Through actions, for example, by praying 5 times a day. That's a second piece of information, that's 2 marks for that paragraph. They're important because doing the acts makes society better, for example, helping the poor, through Khums and Zakat. I'd give that 4 marks. Each paragraph has 2 bits of information, and that is a perfect answer. The next answer, they are important because they show commitment and praying makes you close to Allah. I've given that 2 marks out of 4. It's possible. Secondly, they're important because you will go to heaven. You might get a mark for that. I think it's quite vague. So if you gave 3 out of 4, that is possible. Thank you. Now, I want you to think, can you remember what the 5 pillars of Islam are? I'd like you then to pause and see if you can write the 5 down and then restart the video when you've written them down. The 5 pillars of Islam are Shahada, Salah, Swam or fasting, Zakat and Hajj. And today's lesson particularly focused on the first pillar, which is Shahada. So, Shahada is the first pillar of Islam. It is a declaration of belief which Muslims are required to say and is the first words whispered into the ears of newborn babies. But Shahada describes the essence of Islam, but what does it say? In English, the translation of Shahada is, I bear witness that there are none worthy of worship except Allah alone, and He has no partner. I bear witness that Muhammad is His servant and His messenger. Can you now copy this statement down into your exercise book or on a piece of paper or type it up and explain what you think it means? You will need to pause the video while you do this. Just like to add, Shia Muslims add Ali is the friend of God to the end of the Shahada, and that is because they believe Ali was the rightful leader after Muhammad. So the Shahada is the same for Sunni and Shia Muslims, but there is an extra sort of bit added on. The Shahada tells us that there is only one God and that Muhammad is his messenger. That's really, when you've written it down, described what it means, you should have had those bits of information written down in your description. The meaning of the declaration of belief is totally rememberable, which means that it's simple. All Muslims can remember it, and it links to two fundamental beliefs and principles in Islam, and that is Tawheed and Risalah. So Tawheed, which we did in your word search, was one of the 5 roots of Islam, or Usuluddin. And Tawheed is, Muslims are required to believe that Allah is one, without any partner. He should be the total focus of worship, and if you fail this, you are committing the sin, and this sin is called shirk. Tawheed is the oneness of Allah. There is only one God, and you need to focus on God when you worship. Risalah is Muslims believe Muhammad was sent by Allah to deliver the final and universal message to the world. Muhammad and other prophets make Allah's message memorable and present. So summing it up, statement of belief, Shahada is a statement of belief which tells you there is one God and Muhammad was the final and the seal of the prophets. The next task I'd like to do is, when is Shahada recited? Because it's fundamentally very important and it sums up the essence of Muslim belief. To do this, I'd like you to copy this diagram out. So when is Shahada recited? It's recited when a baby is born, throughout the day as part of prayer or salah, when a person becomes a Muslim, and when a person is buried. Copy that diagram out. Can you add an explanation to each of those 4 points, saying why is it important that Shahada is recited at this point? Why is it important that it's done when a baby is born? Why is it important to recite during prayer throughout the day? Why is it important that when someone becomes a Muslim and they revert to Islam, they say the Shahada? Why is it important to say it when a person is buried? If you can you do the master task? And do you think about how do you think reciting the Shahada regularly will affect a Muslim's behaviour? Why is it important remembrance of their faith, and why will it affect, how will they affect their behaviour? Sorry about that. The final task I'd like to do is, can you explain 2 reasons why the Shahada is important to Muslims? Now, if you remember back to the task we did on marking the answers on the 10 obligatory acts, you need to have, in a B answer, you need to have 2 paragraphs, 2 bits of information per paragraph. They need to be different and they need to make sense and be linked to the question. Okay. If you want to challenge yourself, if this was a C question, how would you add, or what source of wisdom or authority would you add? When you've done this question, can you upload it onto class charts so that your teacher can have a look and hopefully give you a mark? Right, thank you, Year 10. Keep safe.